Good morning, everybody. My name is Lita Abella, and welcome to my new show, What's Your Story in the New Normal? I'm an entrepreneur, health and wellness consultant, public speaker, licensed private investigator, and former LAPD lieutenant. And in between all that, I went to law school and obtained my JD. I tell stories that inform, inspire, and influence others. Today, my guest is Erin Joyce, a very special friend and colleague of mine in the legal industry. So welcome, Erin. So go ahead. Oh, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, sure. We're all getting used to this new environment of virtual connections. And so whereas maybe by the middle of March, I had never been on a Zoom meeting, now I'm learning how to make breakout rooms. My background, and as Lita will know, we met at the state bar because I was a state bar prosecutor for almost 19 years in the Office of Chief Trial Counsel, handling all different types of discipline cases and investigations involving lawyers. I now have been on private practice since 2017, and I handle ethics consultations for lawyers, help them avoid any troubles. And when they do get a contact by the state bar, I handle state bar investigations and proceedings. I've tried more than 3 dozen state bar trials. And I also help applicants who are seeking to become a licensee of the state bar get through the moral character determination process. So I'm a sole practitioner in Pasadena. And even before the pandemic, a lot of my practice has been remote, but I'm very lucky that I have a great assistant that I've actually worked with for 30 years. And
wow.
It's been very, very good. So we have been communicating, through not Zoom meetings necessarily, but obviously phone, conference call. And we have had a remote office and a cloud-based system since the beginning. So it's really served us well.
That's great. Tell me a little bit about your personal life, your family life. Are you married? Do you have children? So forth.
Well, I'm married over 33 years.
Wow.
I've been married much longer, all of my adult life, and yes. And I have 5 children. I have 3 grown sons, and I have 2 daughters that are 13 and 15. So we're in the high school years right now. And actually I have 1 daughter who just started high school and 1 who this year, it would have been her culmination year of 8th grade, being in a kindergarten through 8th grade school. So it's pretty sad that all these kids are gonna miss out on all the, final year festivities, but really for 8th grade, it's far less of a problem than I know many people who's, had their college graduations and law school graduations and even bar exam up in the air. So really in the 8th grade, it's not a nothing, but it's a lot smaller. I've been in my children's classes, a room parent. So I was the room parent last year for my daughter who graduated 8th grade.
Oh my gosh.
Big fun stuff, like 8th grade dinner dance and DJ, all of that. This year, I just yesterday canceled everything because there's no way by June 5th, we're going to be ready for that. So there's a sadness to that. This 2020 is certainly not an ordinary year. As I've been saying,
you're right.
Interesting time. So it would be crazy to try to do business as usual. It can't happen. And so we had one of these Zoom meetings with all the parents in the class for 8th grade, and we talked about what we should do because there still hasn't been a finality of no graduation, but yeah, there it is. So we're going to do probably end of summer some kind of a celebration of these kids, but it's just not going to be what it could have been and what in the ordinary year would have been.
So 5 children and two are still living at home with you.
Yes.
The other 3 are adult children now?
My 2 oldest sons are married. So I always say I have my girls, which are my daughters, and I have the women who are my daughters-in-law or almost daughters-in-law. I have 2 daughters-in-law proper, and then I have 1 nearly daughter-in-law who is with my youngest son, and they've been together since before he was 21.
Wow.
He just 27 yesterday.
Oh.
Yes, 420.
So we have my son turned 29 in October, so we have kids close in age. So with the challenges of working remotely in the house full of kids, and I understand you also have a grandkid because I remember seeing pictures on Facebook. How do you handle all these challenges?
Well, my oldest son, his son, so my grandson, actually, if you can believe it, he just turned a year at the end of February. And they live in a 1-bedroom apartment, but close to our house. And so his wife, my daughter-in-law, is working from home. And my son is in a business where he's an essential worker. So he still goes to work every day.
Oh.
It's about impossible to have a 13-month-old in a 1-bedroom apartment and continue to work. So now my grandson is with us. So we have 2 daughters that are trying to do their remote learning, which is they have, the schools are doing the best they can. Plus, then I have a baby, and then my husband works from home naturally. So it's a full house.
And I understand your husband's an attorney also, correct?
No, he is an insurance adjuster.
Oh, okay, in the insurance industry. Okay.
Right. Yeah, so he handles claims. And so he's actually the only claims rep for IAT, which is a smaller insurance company based in Raleigh. And so they completely are remote. So there's been seamless transition for his work. But all the people that worked in Raleigh now and other, offices across the country have been told to go shelter in place at homes, but he was already at home.
So you both have your hands full with this large family and working and everything. So how has the pandemic affected your practice, your law practice?
Well, just like almost all the courts, certainly in California, the state bar had to have some kind of reaction to this first, the social distancing, and then shelter in place. So I was actually at State Bar Court on March 16th, that Monday. I had a in-person settlement conference. And at that time, we talked to the clerk, the court administrator, and at that point, there were no rules in place yet about social distancing, anything like that. The very next day on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, that is when the State Bar Court issued emergency orders. So the State Bar offices entirely are closed to the public. They were initially closed into April, and there's been an extension of that closure until May 11th. So initially, all filed matters, all proceedings in State Bar Court were abated. Now, because additional emergency orders have been put in place to allow some type of proceedings to go forward on a Zoom platform like this, because I know that we're all trained. Now, what voluntary settlement conferences and what are called early neutral evaluation conferences in State Bar Court are going to be proceeding on the Zoom platform. I got an order this week in the mail because they're still sending out mail orders through the State Bar Court. They can also serve by email. That's a new rule also. Unabating one of my filed cases for the purposes of setting another settlement conference.
Wow, so many changes, so many new rules. Serving somebody by email now, that's unheard of.
Well, I could say this, it took the pandemic, but now the State Bar Court is moving into the 21st century because many other courts already have e-filing. They've allowed on mutual consent up until now, e-service. The State Bar was probably one of the only agencies that still required a blue ink original signature to make any filing in State Bar Court, which really does tip the scales in favor of Office of Chief Trial Counsel because they're just upstairs from the court. The court is on the 3rd floor of the State Bar building in LA. And again, OCTC or Office of Chief Trial Counsel is in the same building in San Francisco as the court. Whereas respondents had to either spend a lot of money, and it costs of probably up to $100 in LA to get a filing done on a date, with a messenger per day, or by mail. If you send it by mail, overnight mail, you don't get your conformed copies back for 4 or 5 days, and you don't get a filing date in like 2 or 3 days after it gets sent out. So now it's a much more of a level playing field, allowing submission by electronic at least not for initial pleadings. And the state bar cannot initiate proceedings just sending out an email today, which seems right because it's getting jurisdiction over the lawyer. It still requires it out to go by certified mail, but all other pleadings can go by electronic service now. So this is a great leap forward, one that's been resisted. So let's hope that that does survive the pandemic.
Wow. So interesting, the times now in the legal community and all the changes. So how are you dealing with communicating with your clients? I mean, normally attorneys would meet with their clients in person, especially in the first intake. You want to sit down and have that face-to-face contact with the client. You got to read their body language as to, you know, what their situation is and so forth. So now with our stay-at-home order, how are you dealing with that?
Well, I can say that I would have people that said, you know, I never tried a Zoom meeting. I didn't see a need for that because I often would meet with my clients in person. And then when there was a distance issue, because state bar practice really is statewide, I handle a lot of moral character matters, and the applicants can be all over the state. And I've met them for the first time at the informal conference, usually in San Francisco. So I have that experience, but most of the time we would have phone calls and just email exchange. So I think this Zoom platform makes it easier to have that statewide reach, because now I have a meeting with the client set up for Friday at 3 o'clock, and I just sent him a Zoom link. So now I'm going to be able to put face to name, and we're going to talk more deeply about his case.
Wow. Unbelievable. So how are you able to network and get your, you know, business out there in the public and let people know what you do, defending respondents, you know, attorneys who are facing disciplinary matters, and law students and bar applicants who are also facing disciplinary matters with the Committee of Bar Examiners and the Office of Admissions? How are you, because normally we would be going to networking meetings and so forth. So now how are you doing your networking for your business?
Well, you know, I think where there's a will, there's a way, and almost seamlessly, networking has gone online. I'm involved with what is called the Esquire Network, which is 10 network. It's about 350 attorneys in mostly the LA area. And those were, I think, maybe 10 meetings across the county. Those meetings went almost immediately as soon as the stay-at-home orders were in place online in the end of March. And I'm part of LA County Bar Association, and we've just very recently launched the LACBA networking groups. And it's a great new member benefit for LACBA members. And the very first meeting was the beginning of March. And we had our first in-person meeting in downtown Los Angeles the week before the stay-at-home orders were in place, and when people were already being suggested to have social distancing. It was kind of awkward because no one wanted to shake hands at this meeting. I mean, I was beyond, you know, on the other side of the curb. I wasn't paying attention to that, you know, just living my life. But by our next meeting, you know what? Our next meeting, which was scheduled a week later, we moved it on to an online platform. Similar,
Wow.
We had 15 people at that meeting. We now have 7 meetings set for May. And really, it's very, very simple. It's actually it doesn't cost almost anything to run these kind of Zoom networking meetings. And people are hungry for the connection. Cooped up all day, either alone in their apartments or like me, full house, but not really doing the legal things where I was out and about much. It really, really makes the day go better to have this opportunity to network. This is also the great pause, as people call it, is also a time to do some writing. So I've written a couple articles. I have an article.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a great article coming out in the California Lawyers Association's platform in the next couple of weeks, and it's about living the COVID life, actually. Yeah, perfect timing. And then also an article in the LA Lawyer about the interesting times that we're living in.
That's amazing.
It's
I
also,
don't know how you find the time to do all this. I mean, you're a mom, you're a wife, you have all these kids and grandkids, an attorney, part of the Los Angeles County Bar Association. Do you get any sleep?
honestly, I'm up really late, and this is like very strange time. So it's not like the normal weekdays and then weekends. It's like weekends, I'm working because I need to get my actual work done all around these, I would say, administrative and networking type of work. Another thing that's big, and I'm sure, Lita, you know this because you're very involved in this area, the Attorney Wellbeing Week, sponsored by ABA, is coming up May 4th,
Yes.
8th. And I mean, if attorneys need that week anytime, it's now, right? So I'm very involved with LACBA's efforts along that line, and we're going to be having some programming coming up with respect to, attorney well-being. We have 2 different MCs helping put together. Plus, we're doing what's called the Silver Linings Salon, kind of a guided opportunity. We're going to be having breakout rooms. This is during the Attorney Wellness Week, which is May 4th through 8th. On the 7th, so on the lunchtime of May 7th, is going to be the Silver Linings Salon. It is an open forum for attorneys or law students to come and share gratitude, because yes, there's a lot of things to complain about the lines in the supermarket and not being able to go to the beach, all of those things, or not being able to go to work, because 1/3 of our workforce has been shelved right now because of the pandemic. But there are some silver linings, and that's where attitude makes so much difference on how to react to how this is going out. So May 7th, I believe, is the aspect of well-being, which is social well-being, connection.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So it's perfect fit for the Silver Lining Salon. So I'm involved in a lot of programming, but keeping busy like that helps me not sit and think too deeply about where we're going, because that's certainly the fear. Like, I don't know, none of us know where this is going.
Right.
Because I've never played out before, anything like this. And so that's why I think it's so important to really, be into action, which is what I'm doing.
Right, right. So true. Now, for people who are not in the legal industry, what are the benefits of a layperson contacting the LA County Bar Association if they're looking for an attorney, which, and just for full disclosure, I do work for the State Bar of California, but my show is it's something that I'm doing on my own. I'm not doing this on behalf of the State Bar of California, but I do know when we get phone calls, when people are looking for an attorney, we'll ask what county they're in and to contact the local bar association. So what are the benefits? Why would we have people, what are the benefits of people contacting the Bar Association versus just going on the internet and just looking up somebody's name?
Oh, well, that is actually one of the best community services that the LA County Bar provides, is a lawyer referral service network. The attorneys that are referred through that lawyer referral service, it's free to the client. So the client, I believe. So the client gets vetted attorneys and for that are in the practice area, so that they're going to have someone that can really handle their case. Also, there is a separate panel of or a panel of attorneys who are willing to do reduced rate or low bono type cases when clients can't afford an attorney. So really, instead of just going on the internet, going to the lawyer referral service of the LA County Bar is a great way to find a vetted, competent lawyer to handle someone's legal matter.
Excellent, excellent. So we talked about the networking and practicing in these uncertain times and how to communicate. How has your mental health been during all this pandemic? Like we talked about the quarantine and just having to do so many new things in this new normal situation. Have you felt any stress or anxiety dealing with all this? And if so, how do you handle it?
I mean, I would certainly admit that I have had a lot of fear about where we're going, for sure. And so my answer is to get into action. I can say one of the best things I've been doing, honestly, is taking Bennett, my grandson, out for a walk every day. Like we already walked this morning because he likes it and I get some steps, and not just steps, it helps me balance, because really that's the thing. When I'm into fear, it's hard to be thinking with perspective. Keeping into action helps me keep perspective because I'm fine for today. My family's fine for today. My fear comes from wondering what's going to happen in the end of May, June, July. I was just in a professional meeting last night where one of the members that was at the meeting is a law professor at Loyola Law School. Loyola Law School is considering planning right now for the fall semester remote.
Wow.
Wow, I know. I'm like, what? Yes. So, wow. Yes. And so that certainly, that's a lot of months from now. I hope they're wrong, but I can certainly do nothing about that. But I'm saying things like that, I was like, hard to imagine.
Unbelievable. Yes, and as you know, in my second episode, I interviewed 2 law students, one from University of California, Irvine, and one from Harvard, who were the champions of this petition and letter that they sent to the California Supreme Court, or the State Bar, the State Bar of California and the Supreme Court of California about the July bar exam. And I believe from the last Board of Trustee meeting, it looks like they're looking at two different options. One is to have the July bar exam moved to September, I believe September 9th and 10th. And then the other option is this, I think it's called the emergency diploma privilege, which would mean that the graduating students from this season or this semester, May, June graduating students, and any February bar takers who didn't pass would be able to practice law under limited circumstances under a supervising attorney. And so they're still, still trying to work that out. So there's 2 options that the Supreme Court is looking at now. So there's so many things in the legal industry that's happening right now, so much uncertainty. And yes, it does cause a lot of stress and anxiety, but that's wonderful to hear that, you're getting out, you're exercising, you're spending time with your family and friends. And that's what really we need to do. We can't just sit here and sulk about it. This is what's happening, and we need to, make the best out of it. So that's wonderful to hear that you're actually doing that. So any last words of wisdom?
Well, I would say, just to talk just a minute about that bar exam issue, I believe that the Board of Trustees submitted, for consideration to the Supreme Court, the 2 options are to either postpone the bar, as was done in New Jersey and New York. And so they're going to have the September dates, which I don't remember which dates those are. The other is simply to cancel it and not go till February. But I don't believe that the Board of Trustees approved as an option the provisional licensing, which was adopted in other jurisdictions, but not agreed to in California. That's my understanding of how it went down.
Well, I know the actual letter is posted on the State Bar website. So the way I read it was that the provisional emergency diploma was one of the options. So we'll see. So I'll take a closer look at that. But it is something that's obviously being discussed in the legal community because it's going to affect a lot of people, a lot of law students, bar applicants, and so forth. So,
oh, absolutely. Yeah, most of the people, I've been seeing on Above the Law, because I get that, I get little notices. A lot of the big law firms are either pulling back their, or pushing back their offers to the 3Ls.
Yes, that is true. I just saw an article about that yesterday where a lot of the huge law firms are either laying off associates, actual attorneys already. The newer attorneys who just joined the firm, they're laying them off. I've seen salary cuts. I've seen partners actually taking cuts in their salary. So it's a big challenge right now with just work issues and so forth. And it's very challenging for everybody, you know, because of the uncertainty. So we just got to take it one day at a time. And I thank God every day that I still have a job, and I haven't been affected personally financially. I haven't had any pay cuts or anything. And luckily for us at the State Bar, we just finished negotiating our MOU contract. So it was just ratified, the tentative agreement by the Board of Trustees last week. So we are very, very happy and fortunate for that. So we're just about at our time limit, and I know how busy you are, and I don't want to keep you because I know you have a lot of things to do. I want to thank you so much for your time, and this was very, very informative. So any last words?
I just think we certainly are living in interesting times, and ever since this started happening, it kept reminding me of that, what is the pseudo-Chinese curse, which is, yeah, may you live in interesting times. That's never a blessing, and certainly we are. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so I would like to thank my guest again, Attorney Erin Joyce, Defense Counsel from Erin Joyce Law. And stay tuned for our next episode that will be coming out next week. Until then, everyone stay safe, stay home, stay positive, and stay healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.